That's the intro now.
That's our intro for the day. Because
this is ridiculous. Can you hear it?
it's a good song. I sound like a chipmunk. I enjoy it.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
And it is all about that bass. So
yeah, we don't do a lot of trouble over here.
Now you're joining us live for Spontaneity, where we believe that it is all about that bass.
Yes.
But that's not what the show's about. Unless that's your thing and you want that as part of living your life more spontaneously. I enjoy having a great time. I enjoy this show with Stacey Price. I enjoy you, Stacey Price, even though you don't know what a woolly worm is.
Oh my God. Well, I enjoy you too, Maria Daniels. I think you're awesome, full of knowledge and comedy, like straight comedy.
That's
straight comedy.
Straight comedy. I see what you did there. That is true. That's a very true statement. I'm going to show you what a woolly worm is, though. So,
ew, gross.
What do you mean, gross? Right there. That's a woolly worm.
They're so cute. I remember those guys.
Mine was all black. He was all
like
black.
An omen.
And
it's a little Kim lyric. Sorry.
I don't know. But I saved his life in my laundry room. I was telling Stacey before we went live, and she didn't know what that was for some. What do you call them?
Worms.
Oh.
Caterpillar.
Okay, well, we just need to have a chat about all this.
It's a caterpillar.
Yeah, so that's a woolly worm. And I think they're cute.
Can the woolly worm be the sponsor for the show?
Sure. I mean, he has no money, but that's fine. We can just make him an honorary sponsor.
Yeah.
Sponsored by Woolly
Worm.
I'm good with that. People will be like, what? We're sponsored by Woolly Worm. Yes,
yo, you learn stuff here on Spontaneity. Woolly
That's
worms.
What we're here for.
And
sometimes it's random, but you know what? Life is random. It really is.
It is. Except for those moments where you go like, I knew this was going to happen, but in reality, you didn't.
But yeah, you ever have deja vu?
Mm-hmm.
Does it creep you out?
Sometimes.
It does me most of the time. I'm like, wait, oh my gosh, no.
I'm like, why does this feel familiar?
Warp? What is this? How do I know this?
It's like you've never been to like a fast food restaurant. You're like, oh my God, I feel like I've done this before. Yeah, last week, Thursday.
Have you even like done it to the point of like, like you haven't been there, but yet up here on the right, there's a red door. And then you go up and go to the right and there's a red freaking door.
It gets specific.
Yeah, because I'm like, wait. Mm-hmm. But there's no chance that I could have ever been there. I've done that, and that's when it creeps me. It doesn't creep me out if it's just like, oh, this feels familiar. But when it's like in my brain's like, oh, up here you go to the right and there's a red door, and then I do go up to the right and there's a red door. I'm like, no, I don't like this.
My deja vu is more so like an energy, like an energy field. Like I'll be somewhere. I'm like, why does this feel so familiar? Like there's just this familiar feeling. And I'm like, you know what, it's, you know what, I have to say, it's not a creepy vibe. I misspoke. In the past, it used to scare me. I think now more so I embrace it. So I'm like, why does this feel like I've been here before? And I'm like, you know what, good vibes. Just keep it moving.
I thought you said goodbye. I thought you were like, you know what, goodbye.
You know what, I quit.
That is all, sir.
No.
What movie is that off of?
I don't know.
I said good.
I don't know. You know I don't know.
You wouldn't know. Facebook and Twitch and YouTube world, Twitter. I'm not gonna leave you out, I guess, little Tweety bird. I need to know, what is that from? Let's see. That is all. I said good day, sir.
I don't know.
I don't know. I love it. Do what?
Gone with the Wind?
I don't think so. But...
Frankly, my dear. I don't give a damn. You know, it's funny, never seen that either.
You know, I watched it in school.
What? That was a school movie? What the heck are they teaching?
Well, so we could go down this road. I guess maybe we'll briefly tap dance on the edge for a second. I never thought anything about it watching it. Honestly, I didn't. It was just I mean, I understand things that have been said now, and I look back, I'm like, but it wasn't something that stuck out to me then because I didn't think like that. I was a kid. I think I was like in third, fourth, fifth grade. It was elementary school, but I think it was fifth grade.
Yeah, it seems like an appropriate thing to share with fifth graders. You're old enough. You're practically an adult.
Yeah, I don't think that's true, but
it's not.
I feel like 18 is pushing it. I don't think that anybody should be legally able to make their own decisions at 18. I don't know anybody that's ready to make their own decisions.
I don't think anybody should make decisions even at 22 or 23.
No, I think 25. I think by the time you're 25, I think it should be like a permit. This is your adult permit. This is your adulting permit.
30 to 35 is when you should be able to like drink, make decisions.
It's like yeah, because I mean, like think about like even some of the decisions. I was very self-assured on my decisions. I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, stupid. I was so stupid.
Yeah. Oh my God, in my 20s, I was like, this is totally cool. It wasn't cool.
You would have been more terrified. I had kids during that time though. So I'm like dragging people on my train of like, they survived it. They did. But
which is good.
Like, I don't know. Like as far as like easy on my body, yeah, having kids in my 20s was easier than the ones that I had in my 30s. And by far. But as far as like looking back, like my kids were troopers.
Yo, when you think about it, it's just like, I know my mom got married young as well, like 23. That's considered young for some people. Some people are like, what, 23? I was like 16. Like, you know what I mean? So like, I think for my mom, I think when did
Ariel was only 16.
Yo, check that out. We have it in Disney movies, okay? Because that was of the time. Okay? But I think, I don't know. I think it's up to preference. I think it's totally fine if it works for that person. And I think sometimes it's unplanned and you just make it work.
Most of my kids I have 7 kids. How many were planned? 3.
How do you plan a kid?
Do we really need to have that discussion on here? I mean, is this really what spontaneity is today? How did I plan my pregnancies? I feel like nobody actually wants to know that. Do what?
Like, is it a conversation? Like,
yeah, it was a conversation.
You're like eating popcorn and you're like, yo, you want to have a baby? Yeah, let's.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't go exactly like that, but yeah, it was definitely a decision. And
so it's like buying a house. It's like, I think it's time.
Yeah. For me, it was easier and quicker than buying a house. Fertility has never been one of my struggles that I've had. And I'm thankful because I've watched some of my friends struggle with fertility issues and I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But that was definitely not a struggle that I had. It's more like every month that obviously I'm not. I'm like, whoa! Another month I find my husband.
There's no little human growing inside of me.
No, I don't want any humans growing inside of me. Terrible.
Oh my God. But, I don't ever want a human growing inside of me. But I am grateful for the people that...
You don't know. What if you decided to? You don't know.
I would be so nervous about future Stacy. I'd be like, oh my God, Stace, like, really? Do your sweatshirts fit? No? All right.
Well, they will. They'll be fine. I mean, you could... I mean, let's see. I'm adding up. I don't remember how much I've gained. I've got it written down somewhere because I did the math one day. But let's see. I gained 65 pounds with my oldest. I didn't want one of these like 25, 30 pounders. Like my doctor fat shamed me every time I went to the doctor. And I eat healthy. What? Like I eat healthy. I was not the type that sat down and ate Twinkies. And I got fat shamed every time I went to the doctor. You're gaining too much weight. I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. I'm exercising. I'm eating vegetables. I don't know what to do. It was terrible. I fat shamed every time I went. For the first 2 kids. And then he figured out that's what my body just does. And he stopped fat shaming me. It was terrible. But yeah, I gained 65 pounds with my first one. I gained 60 pounds with my second. Like 65 with my third. The least I ever gained with any of them was 55. And that was with kid number 4.
How much did your first child weigh when they were born?
8 pounds, 9 ounces.
Well, makes sense. In my mind.
Yeah. My smallest was 8 pounds, 9 ounces. Several of my kids were 8 pounds, 9 ounces, and my biggest was 10 pounds.
That's a turkey.
He was pretty much a turkey, but he's the 9-year-old. He's the blonde-headed one.
Yeah.
The blonde, as I call him. His nickname's actually the blonde in my house.
So
it's really
funny.
terrible, but yeah, he's 9. He just turned 9 in November. Cade will be 13.
I can't believe Cade's going to be 13. That doesn't make any sense in my brain.
It doesn't make any sense in my brain, and I'm terrified because we've had this conversation about teenagers and how much they suck and what it is that look like with autism. I don't even know.
Just hang on for the ride.
I'm along for the ride and just figuring out what does this look like because it's not good with neurotypical children. Teenage years, not good. Adding autism with it, I'm not really sure what this is going to be, but yeah, I'm along for the ride. So right now we're sponsored by Woolly Worm. We might be sponsored by something a little stronger at some point in time down the road. Not sure.
Yeah.
Just dropping that there. Just saying.
I want to be sponsored by, I don't know.
I want to be sponsored by Remo. It's in my background here.
What?
There.
Oh.
I love Remo though. They're such a good company too.
The company,
what?
Do they just make gym bass?
They make drums. They make different types of hand drums.
Oh.
I do not know who Remo is.
I play the cello. Do they make cellos?
They do not make cellos. And I do not.
I keep looking at. You know how you have that list of like pins.
Oh, actually, my shirt's about drumming. I prefer the drummer.
I get it.
I prefer myself.
I get it.
This is a statement, Chad.
Oh, snap. So you know how you have that list of when you pin stuff on and you're like, holy crap, I need to like do these things eventually.
I do.
So like to the right side of me, so even though it's like people watching, it's probably their left, but to the right side of me, I'm looking at my cello. And as far as I got was I was trying to tune it and the bridge fell off and I said I quit. So now I'm staring at it.
So it's sitting there staring back at you, judging you?
It's like,
Why,
you
Stacey?
don't love me. And I'm like, I do love you. Just give me time. I'm working on it.
Do you know how to fix it?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I just got so frustrated because I was so close. I was on to the last string and it went bing! And I was just like, you know what? We're done here.
That's that's an important point though. I think sometimes like there's reasons to lay stuff down, walk away from it, and come back to it because that gives you time, number one, to cool down. Because if not, you might not even have cello. To be like, I hate you this entire thing. Yeah,
it could be like a rock star and just like smash it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, there's reasons to do that with anything, even business, even like writing. And I know if I'm trying to write something, sometimes I get frustrated with that because like sometimes everybody's heard of writer's block. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. And I'm working on a couple of projects that's writing, and I have my little thing. I put it in my calendar. I set my little timer. I put on my 432 hertz brain stimulating sounds, right?
Oh, you do those vibes, those like
I vibe it all out.
vibes.
I sleep to it too. Whole nother story for a whole other day. But
I used to
cymatics is a real thing. It really works, but we'll talk about that at another point. But anyway, point is I get the mood set, I get it all ready to go, and sometimes it just pours out of me, and sometimes I sit there and I just stare at it the entire time until my timer goes off, and I'm like, that was a waste of freaking time. And part of me in the past is like trying to make myself sit there until I got something out. Yeah. But then it's just crap I end up erasing anyway. So sometimes, if we're not making whatever it is happen, whether it's your cello or whether it's writing or whether it's, coming up with your business plan or whatever it is, I think there's good reasons to walk away from it and come back to it. Now, that's also not an excuse to do what I did with my corkboard of shame and leave it up there for later. I did take them all down, by the way.
Years. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you did?
I took them all down.
Okay.
And I've got them sticking on my computer, and I pulled one off, tore it up because I'm not going to do it, and I pulled another off. I'm actually working on it right now. And so actually one of them is that one webinar I have coming up in January. So I pulled them off of the corkboard of shame. They're gone off of there. They're on my computer. And
hey, start with a start, right?
Yep.
You start with
one of them I tore up there. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I don't even want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. That's why I realized, like, I think you and I both know or have this ability to come up with a billion ideas, right? And I think sometimes it's worth sorting through them and really niching down. I like that word now. So niching down. Niche. Oh, niche. Anyway.
Niche.
Niche.
I like to niche it down with pinkies up.
Just imagine like swirling like some convulsiate, like, oh, you niche down.
Niche.
But I think sometimes it's worth doing that. I think even like during these times of the holidays, I think a lot of us can like overwhelm ourselves and think that we have to do everything and it has to be done by a certain time. And although there are some things that are time sensitive, there are some things we can like let go. Like, how do you feel about like that?
About letting go?
Yeah.
How do I feel about it, or what's the reality of how great I am at it?
Both.
Because it's in, I think it depends on the subject, but on some things I'm like, that's fine, I'm going to let this go. I'm completely like, I've done this to where I'm like, meditation, I'm like, no, I feel free. I'm freeing myself. I'm even thinking about it, of the stress. I've already dealt with it. It's in the past. It's this, it's that, and the other. But then it just like creeps up.
Does it ever haunt you?
Yeah, my brain's like, you remember that? You're still mad. You're still mad about that.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I mean, it's like, it happens. It happened today, actually. It's what's funny enough. Because my husband called. He was like, what's wrong? I was like, oh, nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong at all, Chad. Nothing's wrong. He was like,
I'm fine.
Yeah. So is nothing actually wrong? Nothing's wrong, Chad. He was like, we don't sound like nothing's wrong. Exactly. And he's like, I don't know what that means. I was like,
poor
well,
Chad.
You should know what it means.
Oh my God. Yo, shout out to Chad for hanging in there.
He's like, I don't know what I did. Well, nothing today. You didn't do nothing today. But you remember that conversation that we had? I started noticing
at 4:45.
The same thing. The same thing, Chad. We already had this conversation, I don't know how many times. And it's just like, it's funny almost. Like, after I have my little moments, sometimes I look back and I'm like, what the frick? Like, why? You already dealt with that. We discussed it. It's already a done deal. We've discussed on both sides, like how I want this side of it done and you want this side of it done. But sometimes my brain has a way of going, no, does he mean it?
Yeah. Oh my God.
I'm like, I don't know. Why don't you scroll back through your text and see if you can feel in text messages how much he means it. And I did. I'm like scrolling through. I'm like, oh no. See, I could tell how he messaged there. I could tell. And then I just start getting upset with it. And then I'm like, I'm like sweeping the floor because I was home for a while. So I'm sweeping the floor. And I'm sitting there arguing with my own brain. I'm like, why would he not like message me? Because I guess I need to give a backstory.
Mm-hmm.
He's really busy with work. I'm really busy with work. We have 1,000 kids, so we spend not
a football team of children.
Yeah, it just happens. So one of the things that we talked about was that we were going to make small efforts on both sides to be able to spend more time together. One of his promises was even picking up the phone and just texting and checking throughout the day. Because he hates texting. He absolutely hates it. He likes to call me. I don't like getting calls. I'm like, why the frick are you calling me? And I will actually side butt him and text me, what? And I promised that I would stop doing that. And he promised he would text me, right?
Right.
So I answer my calls. Well, until today, I did side butt him once because I was mad after my brain said that. But anyway, I want to receive the text. Just like, oh, I'm thinking about you. How's your day going? It's stupid. Whatever. But I'm like looking back and I'm like, nope. There every day he hasn't texted me until I texted him first. And it could be like whatever time. And I'm like, I'm like, well, he's been real busy. My brain's like, it's all right, he's been real busy. And my brain's like,
So
yeah,
funny.
he promised. He promised that was his part of it, and you've been answering the calls. You've done your part of it. And so it's so funny that I'm like sweeping the floor while my brain's like back and forth, and Chad calls and I side buttoned him because I was mad.
Yo.
Eat that.
So what did you learn from this? Like, what did you realize that like the making, like what did you, I guess this is my question. In these moments when you're getting angry at him, what are you realizing your emotion is? Like, what is, because anger is a secondary emotion. So what is the prime emotion?
I'm needy, and I realize that I'm needy. I have very specific demands on my neediness. However, and I think it's a really bad thing. I'm needy, and I don't hide it, right? It's like very well known. Hey, I expect this. You don't have to deal with it. That's fine, but just tell me. Just we're on the same page. Don't be like, yes, I'm going to do that, and then don't do it. That does not work out for me. So then the other side of me goes to, I get 0 beeps, and you can just, right?
Yeah.
And there's no middle ground there. It's over here or over here. So what ends up happening in the roller coaster of our relationship is that if it's laid out, 1 through 5 on what I expect to feel like my needs are being met in our relationship, if it doesn't happen, then I start moving over here, and the chips on the shoulder starts getting thicker and thicker and thicker, and I get an attitude. Like this. And then I'm short and more sarcastic, not in a funny way, but more just in a snarky way. And I start out like, this is terrible. I realize this about myself.
I'm only laughing because I know this moment, and I'll share after, but continue.
So, and then I start giving like little bit of attitude.
Little stabs. That's what I call it. Little sharp stabs.
Like that's what makes me mad. He doesn't even know. Like, he doesn't even notice. It doesn't even register.
He's like, yeah, whatever.
Anything wrong at all until he's like, I don't know. You seem like something's wrong. Do I though, Chad? Do I seem like something's wrong? I don't know. I mean, is something wrong? But he has gotten smarter in his almost 45 years on God's earth. He has gotten smarter than now. At least today's the first time that I can remember in a long time that he hasn't tried to somehow twist it. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I have no problem taking fault when I think is my fault. And usually, if I do I'm an Aries, so I do get a little feisty sometimes. So I realize that sometimes I will think out of proportion, and then I'll reel myself back to reality and go, okay, about earlier.
Yeah.
My fault in this. I have no problem taking my part of it, right? I don't.
Yeah.
But what makes me mad about him is that traditionally he has had a problem, and he would always try to twist it over to where even his part was my fault. I will take my blame. I'm not taking your blame. I refuse to take your blame. I'm not taking your blame.
I'm not taking your blame.
You're a grown-up boy. You're a grown-up boy. You can take your own blame. But today, I'm actually very proud of him. He actually texted me, and I screenshot. I'm saving it forever. He said, "You're right." He was like, "Thank you." Was it that hard?
I dare you to blow that up and make it a T-shirt and just, like, freaking wear it. Like, you just be like, "Yo, you said I was great." With the date and the time, like, you said I was right. You said I was right.
Yeah, he was like, "You're right." He was like, I need to do better at that. That was my part. And I was like, thank you. So then I wasn't mad at all anymore. That's the funny thing is I blow up real fast and so my brain's like, but also, if he does what he's supposed to, I'm like, okay.
Oh, God.
It's an error in judgment. He did not do his part, even though I was doing my part. Doing my part.
Error I know this moment. So
anyway, long version of saying sometimes I do well at leaving stuff be, but sometimes if something gets stirred up, I will drag up I'm like,
nope, that's me. I know it.
Ocean, in the ocean, how they like drag the bottom of the ocean. That's me. When I get mad, everything that he's ever done or he thought maybe he was going to do in the past, it's getting drug up. It's getting drug up on November 7th.
Yep.
2013, do you remember when you said? And he's like, no. I'm like, well, I do. I remember that. I remember
So a
that
lot of
day. I remember
people,
what you're wearing. I remember.
a lot of people, aka women, speaking from experience, have what I call like it's a file cabinet, right? So this file cabinet has every time their partner did not do something, said something, or so that did not fit the moment or whatever. So there's a file cabinet.
Oh, yeah.
And anytime the partner says, well, I never did that before, we open the file cabinet and we say, hold on, let's go back to June of 2016. And we pulled the file. And then we go verbatim what was said, done, clothing, weather, season, everything is in there.
Yeah.
Everything is in there because I've done it. I've definitely done it.
And I'd say you also, it's a magnet too that drags every other file that has to do with that file. It automatically, like Google, just pulls it all together. Like
sometimes
yeah,
we go,
that reminds me.
Didn't you share with me on such and such a date that even as a child you did the same thing? So where do you think that came from? It's, you know, I think the thing is we realize we are that, or that's a quality we have, I should say. But I think the blessing is being able to laugh at it after, to be like, okay, I'm over it. Meaning I'll leave it alone for now.
The file gets tucked in.
Hold on. I'm still adding files, but I'm good.
Yeah.
I literally had that moment this week because I was saying to Natasha, because she's working a lot. I'm working a lot, and I know my monthly visitor is on its way, and I know how I get. I start to be like paying attention to things I'm not supposed to be paying attention to. So I'm just like, how is this going? Like, when am I going to see you? Like, what is this? Like, I start to question everything, and I'm like, are you going to step it up? Are you going to like show me some effort? Like, are you going to? And it's so fun. She's just like, what are you talking about? Like, I make breakfast for you like every morning. Like, you know, like she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, okay. And I call her back. I'm like, okay, what I'm realizing is I miss you. Okay. But
oh, there's a but.
It's like, but I want blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? But I think that's the funny moment of it, because you realize, like, I had to like talk to myself for a second. Like, why am I getting like annoyed? Like, what is, I'm like, I check my calendar. I'm like, oh, all right. Okay. I'm feeling needy. Because on a regular day, I'm like, I'm good by myself. Like, she'll call me and I'm like, why do you need to call me? Like, why do you need to call me? And now I'm just like, she didn't call me. Why are you not calling? Why are you not texting? You usually text me at. You usually call me at. It's funny. It's funny.
Do you get annoyed if she calls you too much too, though? Because I do with my husband. Like if it's like
too much and I'm working and I'm in the zone.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'll talk to you later. She's like,
he actually quoted that to me this morning. He said, I'll be honest, I thought about calling you a couple times. He said I couldn't text because I was driving. He said, I thought about calling a couple times, but he said, I looked at the time. He said, I just didn't want to, like, I didn't know if you were writing. And he said, I usually call and interrupt and then you can't get your train of thought back. And I'm like, okay, I get that. I was like, you know, relationships are just hard. And I think they are. And I think it just goes back to you're taking two different people.
Yeah.
Two different mindsets, two different, like the love languages, right? Like the way that I receive love, it is not the same as he receives love. And we typically give love the same way that we feel love without even thinking about it. And sometimes I'm real good at reminding myself, like when he's definitely a acts of service. And he does that kind of stuff. He'll do things for me, but to me that's just like, I do stuff all day long, but that's not love. You know what I mean? I'll do stuff all day long, but it's like I have to remind myself, like, oh, okay, well, he does this and he does this and he does this, and I have to like get my mind straight. But then, and sometimes my brain's like, yeah, but do you remember when he said that? Look at your phone. Open your phone. When's the last time that he texted?
I purposely delete messages.
I should.
Purposely, because I know with me, I'll go back and reread. And the issue with for me to reread, my perception changes because if you think about it, you're changing every day. You change little bit. So now, if you're going back, you could be going back with clear eyes or foggy eyes. You don't know. And if you're in that I call it pain body mindset, you're gonna look at that message totally different. You're gonna be like, wait, what did he say to me on that? I didn't even realize that. You put but. Nah, that means you don't mean what you said. Ain't nobody got time. Delete the messages.
Yep. He does it too. He doesn't realize it because he'll say, you just send K and you only send K when you're mad. And I'm like, yes, I do. But I also do that on purpose, knowing that he's realized that. And I was like,
yeah. It's funny because for Natasha and I, like this is like a whole new experience. I'm in a different level of consciousness from my past, and this is the first person that I'm with that will call me on stuff now. She'd be like, you didn't say that. Or I'm like, yes, I did. And she'd be like, no, you didn't. Or I'll totally like shut down. I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. Are you mad? Oh. And she'll be right up in my face. Are you mad? I'm like, okay, maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, I shut down too.
She literally will follow me around, like, and I'm just like, I'm like, dang it, I have to deal with this. Like, it's like she has a really good way of getting me to wake up and come back to consciousness and getting out of the pain body. Like, she has a really good way. She just be like right up in my face, and I'm like, all right, I'm looking her in her eyes. All right, I'm fine. I'll talk about it. All right. Like, sometimes I do need time to, simmer a little bit. And then I'm like, oh, I have to like use words. Like I have to communicate.
Stacey.
Yeah, like use your words. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, this is so hard. And I'm like, fine, but it's what I like about it. It's a growth thing. Like I start to realize different things of myself, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like it's a learning experience. Like I'm blessed for it. Like I'm blessed to have her in my life and to be changing in the ways that I am,
Absolutely.
She's cool.
Well, and I think it speaks that. I think honestly, we were talking about like how, 18 isn't usually that adult like. And one thing I've noticed, being in my 40s at this point is that I am different. I have, matured and changed, and like the way I look at things doesn't mean that I still don't have my days, like a lot of times, but
you just have the awareness now.
Yeah, I have the awareness, and I kind of snap back out of it, and he'll say something like that, like you said, kind of puts me back into check, and I do the same thing with him. And I think it's the same thing with friendships or even business relationships. Like, I am slower to react on stuff now, but I don't.
Oh, you still feel it though.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. I never get to the point where I'm never I get quiet, like you said you do. I get quiet, but while I'm quiet, I'm trying to figure out how do I feel about this. But during that time, all the filing cabinets, like you said, they're getting opened at the same time. But this is how you feel. Do you remember this? This is how you feel. And my husband's even called me out on that. He says I withdraw because inside there's a lot going on, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
inside my little bubble of cocoon.
Yeah.
And he knows that if I get like that, he'll say something about me being withdrawn. I'm like, you gotta give me time. I gotta sort it out in my head. I was like, it's like a puzzle. Yeah. And I was like, it's better let me sort it out.
So you do puzzles.
I have to file
They're just in your mind. That's why you don't like real ones.
Nope.
You're like, I'm sick of doing puzzles all day long.
That's why I know. Well, at least with that puzzle, I have no idea what the picture looks like. Just saying.
Roger that.
Because for people that are like, what are you talking about? We were talking yesterday with Tim Kroll about puzzles. I don't like puzzles. I do not like them. I think they're a waste of time. You buy a puzzle. It shows you on the front of the box what the picture is going to be. So then you put this puzzle together for like 4 hours to look exactly like the box that's laying right beside of it. It's like,
I want the caterpillar.
Like a puzzle?
To be
you can order puzzles of anything, and that's a woolly worm.
But the woolly worm caterpillar.
Yeah. So
rabbit.
Yeah, and I don't do puzzles.
Okay.
Another thing I don't do, Elf on the Shelf. Christmas is this week, which is crazy. I don't do Elf on the Shelf. I'm not that mom. And there's a million reasons why.
Natasha's gonna love this episode.
Well, Elf on the Shelf is.
She said she can't stand it. She thinks it's creepy.
It is creepy. There's a lot of reasons. Number one, yes, creepy. Who likes the idea of a doll coming to life in the middle of the night and walking around your freaking house? Number one. No. That's a big old no for me. I'm not a fan. I have a weird thing with puppets and marionette dolls and stuff anyway.
Really?
Ventriloquist dummies. It's like a weird fear that I have. I don't love them. I think they're terrifying and disturbing. And the elf dolls are like a doll meets like puppet, and I don't love it. And I don't love the idea of them coming to life at night and walking around. And then. So these dolls get into trouble. Okay, so these dolls, I'm watching these people, like the dolls are like making messes, and I'm like, my kids do that on their own. They need somebody to come teach them how to clean, not make a mess. What the?
So then you get an Elf on the Shelf with like the cleaning kit and make it like vacuum and stuff, and they're like, oh my god, I want to be like the elf, and then bam, now your kid's clean.
That brings me to my next point of who has time to do that? Who has time to sit and make these elaborate things that this elf did?
You got to thank.
I haven't seen them clean. I usually see them like pooping Hershey Kisses or something. I'm like I don't understand.
You see the one where the elf got frozen into a thing of water?
No,
by Elsa.
I just don't understand. I don't.
Did you see that?
Like why? Like what? Like
they froze. They took the time to freeze it. Okay.
I just want to know what their life looks like.
Who, the elf?
No, these people that have time to do this. What their life looks like, that they have time to, finish their work, go home, get everything they got to get home done.
It's a beach
day. And they still have time to do that.
Shout out to Jen.
Office. I'm managing all this stuff. I pick my kids up. I go home, laundry and
Are you saying you don't have time?
No. By the time I throw my kids into bed at 9 p.m.,
you have time for Elf on the Shelf. We're going to make time for you. I'm going to set an alarm.
I feel like that is not. I look at my time as my most valuable asset. And that does not fill the bill. On none of the points. It's creepy. There's 0 point. I don't care. I don't care. My kids are like,
you want the history of Elf on the Shelf?
Like, no, he does not. He does not come to our house. I'm sorry.
Look, Carol Abersold and her daughter Shonda Bell self-published the book Elf on the Shelf, A Christmas Tradition, along with a special box with a small scout elf inside. So you can thank her or write her a letter and say, oh my God, this is something that terrifies me. How dare you?
My mom always told me to not say nothing. If I couldn't say nothing, I said not say nothing at all. I think that's what I need to do here. Because I'm not a fan.
Thanks, Carol. Thanks, Shonda.
It's not my favorite. Not my favorite thing.
They're probably billionaires by now.
Maybe, and I'm happy that this worked out for them, but I will not be partaking.
88% of people like that book. 88.
That paints a picture of what's going on in the world right now. I mean, I'm not saying that the elf is destroying the world, but Just saying. I don't get it.
At first, I thought it was creepy, right? At first, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why are you going to have this weird-looking doll?
Your first is usually the right one.
Go with that. Let go and let God, right? So, yeah, at first, I was just like, dude, this thing has no feet. That's the part that bothered me. Why does he not have feet? Why does he not have feet? He's got hands. How is he getting around?
I don't know. Apparently comes to life, and that part doesn't freak you out. That this creepy elf comes to life in the middle of the night, walks around your house, getting into shit all the time. I don't
literally
know. He's like a mouse or
he's
something.
He's a menace.
Mouse.
Why don't we? I don't know. I think every holiday brings something
weird. There's a
weird.
lot of weird crap that goes on. I don't know. Maybe this is another part of me getting older.
Maybe we need to have an adult version of not Elf on the Shelf, but like alcohol on the shelf, and like there's like a little like alcohol smiley face, right? And then he visits your house with different types of alcohol, right? And it's like, oh, you know, it's tequila, and you have to take a shot.
I don't want anybody just coming in my house. I don't care what they are. I can get my own alcohol. It's fine.
You're like, I'm good all by myself.
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. Just not a fan. Just saying.
You don't want anything around your house, sneaking around.
I just like, I don't know what it is. No, it's not even just this. You mentioned that there's a lot of weird stuff. Tito's in a Speedo. I mean, I might be able to get on board with
Tito's in a Speedo, Jeff?
I might be able to get on
amazing.
board with that just because it's funny.
Tito's in a Speedo.
I just don't even understand the whole elf thing. And there's a lot of, like, it makes me think about, like, a lot of these traditions we have, like, that we just do. Like, we don't know why.
It's acceptable.
We don't even know why we're doing it. I don't know. The Easter doofus on the roofies. That's not a little far, but that's fun. No, I mean, it's like, yeah, like we had Santa come to the cafe, and it was the kids loved it, or well, I wouldn't say all the kids loved it. Some of the kids loved it, and some of them were terrified because you know, everybody's like, you know, stranger danger, don't ever talk to strangers. But here, let me just sit you on this old man's lap, and just if it's fine, you don't know, we're gonna sit on his lap, and the kids are like, ah, you know, and I'm sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, it's weird.
It is weird. It is weird. I was one of those kids that cried. I was like, you've got it. Like, I don't know this man, okay? And I had to find a picture. I was in this, like, my mom has it still. I'm in this, like, pink, like, winter onesie, like, bundled up beyond belief.
Yeah, I walked down memory lane on some of these pictures you tell me about one day.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd be like, what version of Stacy is this?
I will enjoy it.
I was terrified of humans as a child. I didn't understand why humans were looking at me and why they came up to me. Who are you? I don't know you, stranger danger. So when I went to see Santa, same concept. My brother's like, yo, I'm going to tell you what I want. I want this. I want to transform. I'm like, get away. That's what I want. Get away.
What's even more weird, if you think about it, is a freaking Easter bunny. It's like a 6 foot tall rabbit.
Yeah, straight up dropping treats. Ew, what?
Yeah, I'm like,
how does an Easter bunny lay eggs? In what world do we live in?
He stole them. I mean, he's a giant rabbit that thieves eggs from chicken. I don't know what's happening here. That's what I'm saying. It's like when you sit and think about it.
He's a turducken.
It's just seriously, it's like one of those things. It's like we all just do it. The same thing with the Elf on the Shelf. Somebody just decided to come up with that one day. We're all like, yeah, that's good. Let's do that. Let's do that. And I put my foot down on that one because it's too late. Because I still have little kids and we've done the Santa thing, but I don't.
Your kids don't go to other kids' houses or so, and they see that elf and they're like, mommy, I want that.
Oh no, they said it. How come the elf doesn't come to our house? I said he's not invited.
It's like True Blood. Like we never invited him in.
Like, they know I don't like puppets and stuff like that. I'm like, he's creepy. He's not invited to our house. I'm like, and you know, I heard he just like tattles on kids for being naughty anyway. So it's like we don't want him here. So they rarely ask. It's every once in a blue moon. But
all right.
It's weird.
Well, what other holidays have like weird? How come New Year's doesn't have one? Shouldn't there be like a New Year's flask? A New Year's flask.
There you go. That's your idea with the smile.
Yeah, and it's like bouncing around. And
you could probably make this happen because if you think about it, Elf on the Shelf is not that good of an idea. Look what's happening. So I mean, it's just adult.
I'm gonna make, I don't know, maybe fantasy the New Year's flask. And like
fancy
you never
the flask.
And fancy the flask, and she like sits on like your like mantle.
She sits on your lap.
Oh, the ideas that are in my mind that are not appropriate for 1 p.m. Okay. Anyway, So like she'll be on your mantle and you never know what's inside. You're like, ooh, what? You're like, whiskey, no way. You know, like every time it's there, you don't know what, like it could be like whiskey, like somebody fills it up for you. You don't know what it is.
It's like a magical surprise.
Yeah. And then
I don't know. The whole flask thing also freaks me out. That's all. Like, speaking of things that are just weird to be fun, how do you completely wash those SOBs? Like, seriously, the hole is like this big. Like, and nothing, like, there's no way to actually clean it. And I realize alcohol is very cleansing and kills bacteria and stuff. But still, I'm just wondering, like, I imagine up in the top corners that there's like gunk.
You know, for me, like, holiday chic is like those cut off gloves, like black gloves, and like taking a flask out of my jacket. Like, that's holiday chic for me.
I think, you know what's hysterical is when you're little, there's these things that people have or do that you think is just like, that just means they're rich. And that's actually when I'm having a flask with not just a flask with your initials on it, or like a handkerchief with your initials embroidered on it. That meant you were like
high class.
That was loaded. You were loaded. And the gloves, like the what do they call it? Driving gloves.
Yeah.
Driving gloves.
Ooh, driving gloves, and they're kind of like right here.
Yeah. That meant you were rich. What are some other things? You hold the steering
wheel and you go like this sometimes.
Yeah.
For what?
Those I don't know.
You're high class.
You were loaded.
You're part of the elite.
Actually, you already been places. You wasn't going places. You had arrived.
I've seen the world, and the world has seen me.
I also thought growing up, just the idea of vacations. We talked about this a little bit yesterday with Ted. The idea of vacations, I thought that everybody was just loaded because they could go on vacations all the time. And like I felt like they went like everywhere all the time. But I just figured out there's more than two types of people. But in this scenario, there's two types of people. There's the vacationing families where they're like, let's experience life. And then there's my people. Where they were like, we have things to do.
Mm-hmm.
Things to be done.
My mom was like, we have bills to pay. And you're like, okay.
Those are more traditions. Like I've accidentally become also the family that doesn't really vacation a lot. And I think it's because I didn't grow up like that. So it's not even something I even think about. Like, it's not like something that I consciously think, oh, it's vacation time. I have to be like, oh, yeah, we've not done any, like, no breaks, no nothing. And that's a forced thing in my mind and not like something, because it's not, I don't know, I'm not wired like that. Do you vacation at all now?
No, because the thing is, like, I'm more of a vacation to me, like, I still have that idea in my head that it's like this much money that you need.
Yeah.
Like in dollars. But in bands. Like they need to be in like $1,000 bands, right? Yeah. But I'm learning to understand that there are options. Like I could do other things, like little trips, smaller trips, but then also to go on vacation doesn't have to, because in my mind, to go on vacation means next month we're going to Aruba.
Yeah, like, or like on Home Alone, where he takes the entire family to Europe.
The entire family goes. Oh, you know, now I know, because I watched that the other day. I watched Home Alone for the first time the other day.
Oh, yeah. Did you like it?
It was terrifying. Because I don't like those creepy crawler thingies.
Oh, yeah, the spiders. I thought you meant because they left a freaking child. How do you leave your child?
Yeah, she's like, on the plane. She's like, yo, I'm totally I feel like I'm forgetting
I can understand
something.
losing your child.
Yeah.
Now, the story where like they fly to Europe and somehow one of them wanders off, I can buy that. Like, you know, I'm right there. But forgetting your child, like you don't even notice you don't have a whole kid.
Well, the issue was she gave the responsibility to the kid, her oldest daughter, to count the kids, and that other weasel was over there.
She shouldn't have known better.
She didn't even say like, yo, turn your face around. Let me make sure it's you. But she's thinking, yeah, whatever. I counted 12 heads or 11 or whatever the number was supposed to be. She should have done it.
Mistakes were made. But let's go back to the idea that how could they afford a European trip is not cheap.
No,
even I think
they saved up monthly,
like early 90s or something. It wasn't cheap even then. It wasn't even cheap then. So I always want to know what job this man had. Where he's just
I mean, you saw his house, right? His house was pretty big. Like he lived in like a cul-de-sac.
I mean, you could have a big house and not be like able to take somebody on a European vacation. But I feel like I need to know these things. I feel like I feel like I'm not a big
1990.
movie buff anyway. Like, I'm really not. I am apparently compared to you, but I'm not in real life. But like, I
Compared to
feel
you.
like a lot of these movies, I need the backstory. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, I need details. I would like to call the screenwriter and be like, excuse me, I need to know this little detail that was left out of the movie. That way I can, tie it up in a neat, tidy bow, because it makes no sense to me. And that's one of them.
Here's what I did. I looked up the median house values from 1990 to 2000. I don't know what state they lived in.
New York.
Okay, so New York in 1990.
I might be wrong.
It looked like a Long Island house. Like, it looked like a Long Island
I thought it was New York.
So he's around like 100K. This says 161,200.
Yeah.
And then
I wish houses still were like that.
Yeah, me too. But that house, I'm gonna assume, from my knowledge of watching $1 Million Listing for years, that's my expertise. That house is definitely 1 point something million now, based on the neighborhood, curb appeal.
More than
if that house is on Long Island,
the house down the road from me just over $490,000, and I do not live in New York.
But I don't think that it would have been over that, only because of the land it was on. The land wasn't that big. The land's not that big, and depending on what county, 1 point something million. I'm not thinking 2 million or more. It would have to be way bigger to be like, we got to talk Montauk houses. Montauk houses, then you could like talk about 4 or 5 mil. But I'm thinking 1 point something. High ones. You don't think
maybe
so?
Maybe
like, no.
He was come to
really
New Ken.
Where's New Ken? What is a New Ken?
Like Barbie's boy toy.
Oh my god.
Ken.
Barbie's like new house and
stuff.
stuff.
There's a New Ken, and you can buy a mansion for $125K.
There's a man waiting for you. He's got money.
That right there, we could probably sell. We could probably
market. So funny, Pittsburgh. And I don't know why.
Nobody wants to go to
Most of my listeners are in Pittsburgh. Why?
I don't know. The birthplace of aluminum.
Oh
Aluminum causes Alzheimer's, so that's not a selling point for me.
I was gonna say we could always use more aluminum. We can't. We don't need any more.
But I like you.
Thanks, Jeff. Anyway, I love Jeff.
He's your biggest fan. He's got like the number. He listens to your podcast with the number one.
He's like, yeah, press play. I gotta send Jeff a T-shirt. He's like, ah.
Yeah. He's got Padooty, which was one of the sponsors for IPU, and Tina and I made up I'm gonna call it a jingle. I mean, that's a loose term at this point where it's at, but for Padooty, the Stacy Price. Yeah. And I think that the Stacy Price should be what you have. I said that last time he said that, and it still just says Stacy Price, so that's fine though.
Where's the jingle? I thought you were gonna sing it.
I need Tina. It's a 2-part.
You guys have like lines and stuff. Got it.
It's a 2-part. So, and I'll let Jeff. Jeff's going to have us do that, and then he'll present it to the world. So
I love it. I'm ready. I don't think I'm ever ready. Are you supposed to be ready for something? I think like the beauty is in not
I mean, it kind of
ready.
depends on what it is. I mean, I like planning. I also like the idea of some things you want to be spontaneous. Spontaneous.
No way.
Obviously, some things you want to be spontaneous on, but plans are huge. And I told you next week is my biggest planning week, and I say that because I do little planning.
Thanks for bringing me into it, because you're like, I'm planning. I'm like,
planning. Oh no, I love planning. Like, it is. How do I say this without sounding really dirty? I don't know. Planning to me is like we'll just leave it there. It's good for me. I'll just say that. I love planning. I love planners. I love pens. I love stickers that you put on the planners. I love.
Have you ever heard of
stores.
jetpens.com? If you're looking for a site to like geek out on planners, paper, pens, go to jetpens.com. Thank me later. Right. You will literally just sit there with a glass of wine and you will have an amazing afternoon.
I will, because that's how I am also with a Container Store.
Oh my God.
Have you ever been in a Container Store?
I have. I had to walk out.
He's like, should I be weirded out about how much you love this? I'm like, possibly.
You like organization? Yes.
I just really love this.
Like the saxophone starts playing, like.
It's like, yeah. It's good moments. So I mean, it's the Container Store. And I think I'm going to diagnose the reasons why this is. My life's chaos. That's no secret. My main show is called Successfully Chaotic, obviously. My life's chaos. So any little like form of something that I feel like I have control over, it's just like, I mean, it's magic to me. Especially the days, it's very rare that this happens where every single thing, I literally can check them all off in order. That's a magical day. That's a magical day in the Daniels home all around. I am ecstatic, like I'm walking on clouds. Like, my husband's up happy later. We're just gonna say that. But it's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good day. That rarely happens to where everything checks off, and I think that's why I love to plan so much. It's just the idea of like dreaming, and I think a lot of people get bogged down when things don't work out, and that used to be me. And I still have my moments where I'm like, I hate everything. I've said that like a million times because it happens. But more often than not now, I'm like, all right, well, that sucks. That wasn't the way I planned, but let me go ahead and see where else I can stick this, or do I need to delete it? It's, I've got my own little system now that most of the time I don't completely freak out, that I can, go on with the rest of my day. It's not as magical as when I can check all the boxes off. There's just something about that. But the planning, when I'm sitting and planning and dreaming in that moment, anything is a possibility, right? Anything is a possibility. And it doesn't matter at that moment, the reality points of it, other than just trying to make sure that I'm realistically planning. Because I think that was part of my problem in the past is that, and I know we've talked about this a lot, that I would make these plans with these ridiculous time frames that I would have a hard time completing if I was single with no kids and I have a football team. So it's like, now I'm more realistic with my planning. It doesn't look as impressive on paper, but it's realistic and I'm checking them off more consistently. So, I mean, I think that's a big thing, with planning and, going into the new year. We talk about resolutions, and I have a love-hate relationship with that word just because it gets overused and underused.
I used to hate New Year's. Like many years ago when I was like, this is before I was even in my 20s. I used to like run and hide, literally run and hide in my room, close the door, and just cry. I hated New Year's because it terrified me, because there was this energy of like fresh starts, and I was dealing with a lot of emotional issues at that time of who I was and why I was. And I didn't realize it was self-defined until later, but it was a terrifying moment for me. And I literally hated it. Hated it. Hate is actually an understatement. Just hated it. And then I learned to have peace with it now, because it would literally be starting from like November till New Year's, seasonal depression, anxiety, worry, just dark stage. And it was because I wasn't fulfilling my purpose. Like, that's the root. I wasn't fulfilling my purpose. So now I'm like, okay, this is actually the first year, well, starting from maybe last year too, but this is the first year where I could say, like, I could still feel that there's like a space of like, you could always go back to, you know what I mean? Because like change is sometimes hard to grasp onto, but it's like, oh, like now that I've given myself certain responsibilities that I gotta hold them up, it's forcing me to deal with certain things. You know what I mean? So now I'm like, oh, okay, New Year's could actually be cool. Like it could actually be something amazing if you're around the right energy and if you give it a purpose, like give it something amazing, attach something great to it. That's what I'm starting to learn now. And it's so, I'm just like, damn it, like every year I'm going to have to do this now. That's the only thing. I'm just like, oh, because it's so easy to just be like, hands off, I'm not going to do it anymore. But the funny thing is that as I'm diving more into purpose, I'm also realizing there's certain things I have to let go. And that's what's giving me peace or starting the journey to peace. I'm like, oh, like this doesn't serve me. How about not doing this? You know what I mean? So it's like this realignment, I should say.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people have given up on the idea of New Year's. And I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter when you could do it on August the 27th. I don't care. You know what I mean? The whole point is that that's whatever date you pick.
Right.
That's when you're choosing that you're going to put into effect this plan. And it doesn't even have to be this big, full, like detailed plan. It could just be, like you said, like, I want my life to look like this.
Yeah.
So to be able to make my life look like this, I'm going to do this and I'm going to not do this because it has to be both sides. Right. And I think sometimes people try to overcomplicate it and then make it this like magical day. And yeah, I believe that there's, certain days that have certain energies and all that. I'm not saying that, but
right.
If you don't hit, your goals come the end of January that you made, you don't need to be like, oh, I guess maybe 2023 will be my year. That's dumb. It's stupid. Just, realign and make whatever plan it is, pick whatever date you want to make the date and just stick to it. If you fall on your face, figure out why it happened. Maybe, maybe the timing wasn't right.
Right.
Maybe your heart wasn't all the way in it. Maybe you didn't completely understand what all needed to happen. Maybe you need time to kind of think about it. I mean, there's a million reasons, but I think we can get so bogged down on the tiny little minute details on things that we talk ourselves out of living the life that we want to live because it's not easy. And I mean, life isn't easy. It's not. Right. There's the horrible parts of life. There's hard, sad parts of life. There's really tough times, but there's also good times. And there's even one thing that I think has made the biggest difference for me in recent years is trying to appreciate just the tiny little things, the tiniest little thing. And if I'm feeling more stressed out than normal, which happens, I got anxiety like a lot, I think everybody else nowadays. And, if I start to feel that pressure and I feel like, oh, I don't know what choice to make. I don't know, what way to go. I don't know. I had to walk away from, like you were talking about earlier with your cello. And sometimes it's something simple. Like I usually go outside because I'm an outdoors person and it's just really noticing. And sometimes it's noticing, like, honestly, I know you don't like bugs, but a bug, like watching a cricket or looking at a leaf or looking at some flowers.
I like bugs. I just,
No, you don't. It's okay.
Certain ones creep me out.
That's all right. But point is like you could just fix it. It doesn't have to be something grand, It could be something little.
Yeah. I have that same appreciation. I think I read a quote one time. They said, nobody could be angry in the woods. And I understood what they meant by that because sometimes I think we get a little caught up in everything. Like, this weekend is Christmas. I'm sure there's people going nuts trying to buy something for somebody or Amazon they're not going to deliver it on time. What am I going to do? This was the gift. You know what I mean? Like, yes, that externally, absolutely. I get it. But sometimes you got to reset. You know what I mean? You got to like.
I locked my lips. I'm just staying out loud. Go ahead, continue.
Oh, you got to reset. Like, step outside a bit. Sometimes I have to remind myself that too, because I think even a couple days ago, I was just like, I was like, am I doing the right thing? Like I got into that like paranoid state and I was like, can you just go to the park? Just go to the park. And I went to the park and I just started walking and I was like, oh, I forgot. I make my own schedule. Like I can do this. Like it's okay to like step away for a second. Just like you were saying, like with my cello and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I had to like literally do that. And I saw like deer and like all these beautiful things. And I was like, yo, it's really nice outside. And I came back and I was like, I feel better now.
I mean, seriously, and I posted something on my wellness page that talks about, that like in the soil, there's natural antidepressants for the microorganisms. It's true. And like this reason, like people make fun of me because I have plants in my entire world. Like my house has plants, my bedroom has plants, my bathroom has plants, everything has plants. We have plants everywhere. And one of my favorite things to do is, be out in the garden, be out on the farm, be out in the dirt. And I raise worms, not whirly worms like our sponsor, but like worms for like composting worms. And I just love that world. And if I am stressed out with anything, because I mean, there's a, like we're on here right now on this show and it's being plastered all the places. And I mean, and that's amazing, right? That we're so connected. But sometimes I think we can feel the heaviness from it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we just get overloaded and we have to literally disconnect. We have to disconnect. Yeah. And, I've found that, there was points that I almost quit doing like the marketing side of things because there's a heaviness related to just having to be present digitally all the time, having to deal with just like pushing things out and marketing things. And it's a very cluttered world, especially the way that it's expected to be done. And, I struggled with that for a while and almost quit doing it. I almost quit doing it. And, I've decided, to obviously stay in that world, but, I do have portions of it that I enjoy that I'm good at. And some of the other team members, have portions of they're good at and they do. Because I think one of the problems is if we're not conscientious about the things that are kind of like adding to our life and the things that are taking away from our life, if we're only focusing on things that are drawing from us and we're not getting enough things that are adding to us, we end up feeling imbalanced. And that was my biggest problem, I think, for a while. And, I think it's very important to really be honest with ourselves when we're kind of looking towards this new year and be honest with first of all, where are you at right now? Where are your feet planted today? Like, where are you at right now? Because I think that's another problem.
I'm in the office.
Well, I'm serious. Like, if you're like, there's nothing wrong with big goals. Like, I am one of those people dream big because I truly believe anybody can do anything. Yeah. But I also truly believe that it's not this overnight thing like most people think it is. It is. It's not. A lot of time and work, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that as we're going into this year, we need to figure out what is it that we actually want. I have nothing against money. We all need money. I actually love making money. I have a love-hate relationship with money itself, but that's a whole other story for another day. But I love making it. It's a thrill for me. But, I think we need to be really realistic on, like, what do we want? What do we want out of life? And, not just monetarily. What do we want our life to look like, feel like, smell like? Literally. I just wanted to say smell like because it sounded funny.
Yo, I'm burning, what is it? Yankee Candle's Kitchen Spice, one of my favorite scents.
Yeah.
Candles like almost like.
It's almost gone.
It's very spicy. Every day.
Spicy.
Yeah, love it. But yeah, closing remarks. Maria Daniels, go.
Boom. Yeah, I don't know.
You do know.
I do. I mean, some things I don't. Some things I do know. No, I mean, I think it's true. I think, I'm calling it my big planning week because I told you that's my thing.
I dig it. And I want to thank you for bringing me into it. Like, I know we're going to talk about certain things, but I think, it helps me to kind of realize that, like, because I used to be a big planner. I used to have, but that was my problem. I was too big of a planner. Like, there was no room for certain things. You know what I mean? And then when I said, oh, stop planning, I started to embrace the spontaneity. But the issue was there wasn't like that weird space of like balance that I'm supposed to appreciate. And that's what happened. And I just let everything go because I'm an extremist. It's all or nothing.
I'm nodding because I understand that well.
Yeah.
A lot of us are. A lot of us are like that. But I think the beauty of it is, and that's one of the cool things about this show is, we've said this a lot, to really be able to be spontaneous, you have to have a level of planning. And, you know, I do not embrace over planning for most people. And I say most because for some people it works fine. But for most people, it does not. Rigid planning doesn't work well for most people because life is chaos for everybody. Mine's a little more, I know, but you know, for everybody, it's a little bit chaotic. So if you're too rigid on your plans and you're constantly feeling the sense of failure, it's like the snowball effect. My husband's man crush is Dave Ramsey. I'm not his biggest fan, but again, another story for another day. Oh, he's overrated in my opinion, but whatever. But anyway, he talks about the snowball effect, paying off debt and all that kind of crap. But
that guy, he makes me cry. He's really mean.
He makes me cry because of his theories on like it doesn't matter the interest amount. You want to pay off your 2% interest, you know, loan before you do your 27% interest. That makes zero sense, and I will not get on board on that. I understand the theory; it's the small wins. I get that theory, but let's celebrate the payment then on the, you know, 27% on, you know, like I just don't understand that.
He like scares me. That's why I don't listen to the show.
Me and my husband have gotten knocked down dragouts on that one. I'm like, you can just follow whatever you want to, but I'm not. And guess who ends up getting better interest rates? Guess who? We can talk about that all day.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's point of saying that is that I understand, you know, the snowball effect thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, looking at the schedule, if you're making your plan, your schedule, your goals achievable, you're checking it off. There is, you know, psychological benefits to watching that list get checked off. That snowball effect is real. He's right on that. You know, that's something that's been psychologically proven. We get those small wins. We're like, yeah, I got this. Yeah, I got this. And it propels us to the next thing. So that's the reason I'm a big fan of realistic goals. Look at your life, not the life when you close your eyes that you imagine right now, like your actual life today. You know, today, what does it look like? Because if you're making your plan for your dream life, you know, 10 years from now or whatever, like it doesn't make any sense to make that plan for then. And that was my problem is I was making a to-do list for a single woman with no kids.
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute. And some kid comes up to you, is pulling on your shirt. You're like, who the, oh my God, you're real.
That's right. You know, it's, you know, and I think what we can accomplish if we're only responsible for ourselves is going to be more than if we have other responsibilities. Everybody's like that. Right. But you need to make sure you're taking into consideration your other responsibilities.
Yeah.
Whether they're kids, whether they're fur babies, whether they're significant others, freaking text them. That's all I'm saying. Just, it takes 2 seconds. 2 seconds to send a text.
1, 2.
That's all. I just realized it's 2:13 because
that's all. I was like closing remarks, but you had great closing remarks, and now I get to,
that's my closing remark.
Now I get to speak with SJ Childs.
I love Sarah.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's also an autism mama, and she's amazing. And I want to be.
You want to crash the episode?
You know those little kids she had to do what?
I said you want to crash the episode.
Yeah, I'll be like, hi, Sarah. No,
I'm doing pre-recorded though. So.
I love her, but
we're gonna have a nice little discussion.
We were talking about doing that ladies' night, and I went ahead. I don't even know if you've seen it. I added you as co-host. Hopefully, you can come.
I'm hoping to. I see it's on Sunday at what 6 Eastern, 6 p.m.
6:30 Eastern. She's on Mountain Time.
Oh, okay. I don't.
So 6:30 Eastern.
All right.
So if you can, that's fine.
I'm hoping to, but usually I'm like, you know, driving around.
Well, even if you just call it in and be like, hey, it's me. I'm in the car.
I'm like, but I don't have a beverage because legally I can't.
You can drink a lemon water.
Yeah.
And you can just call it. You can call it H2O with a twist of lemon. It makes it sound better.
I'll take the flask out.
Yeah.
And actually put water in it. Some cops can be like, "What's in there?" I'll be like, "It's lemon water."
You can have it in a martini glass while you're driving.
Yo, can you imagine? It's like,
You get pulled over. You're like, I swear it's just water.
I'm like,
And
it's water.
He's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm actually on a call. I wanted to.
I was like, dude, I'm on a call, and on top of that, this was my idea of what being rich is.
Yeah.
He's like, move along,
And you
man.
have like a monogram handkerchief that you pull out to dab your mouth.
Can you imagine? He's gonna be like, sir, pull over. I'm like,
No, that's a whole other thing. Well, I'll let you go so you can get to your show with Sarah. But
I'll tell you, said, hey.
Tell her I said, sup.
I will. I'll say it just like that.
All right. Well, we didn't use the intro, so I don't know if you're wanting to use the outro. If it's just water, then why are you in a Speedo? So, yes, we need to add that in. I had a Speedo, but it wasn't like the male Speedos. I was on swim team in school, so I had like the girl Speedo, which let's just take 2 seconds to say they did not make for tall people because it ended up being a thong.
Uh-oh.
Just saying.
Ouch.
Yeah, but that was.
You have to like walk like this with your shoulders hunched.
So yeah, it's not good. Tito's in a Speedo. Hashtag callback. That's our ending remarks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Brought to you by Padootie. And our sponsor, Woolly the One. So, all right. So.
He's so cute.
Are we just going to like stare awkwardly while you hit end, or what's happening?
Oh no. I'm going to press the outro. Goodbye.
Bye.